Okay, I'm going to be going through your Unit 1 study guide. This should be in your folders if you haven't gotten it already. 3 formulas that you're going to need are your slope, your distance, and your midpoint. And remember, with all of those, we have our x1 and our y1, x2, y2. Slope is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And remember, with this one, you are not allowed to have decimals, so no decimals. Distance is the big square root, where it's x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. And our midpoint, we stack, add, divide. And remember, while watching this video, you can pause it at any time. That way you can catch up and get these notes down, or you can rewind it if you didn't quite get something. So using these 2 points, we're going to find the slope, the distance, and the midpoint. So let's look at slope first. We'll take our y1, which is 10, minus our y2, which is 2, divided by our x1, negative 5, minus our x2, 7. Once we have that, we can type it right into Desmos. If you want to use the yellow calculator, remember it is some extra steps. Desmos is nice because it plots everything for us. So I would hit my fraction bar, and all I have to do is 10 minus 2, and then on the bottom, negative 5 minus 7. Again, no decimals, so all I have to do is hit the button in the blue, negative 2 over 3. If you're using the yellow calculator, you'll get a 8 over negative 12, which you would then have to reduce to get full credit. Okay, your distance. So again, we're going to use the same points. So I'm going to plug in my x1, which is negative 5, minus my x2, 7 squared, plus y1, 10, minus y2, 2 squared. And again, once I have that typed in, I can just type it right into Desmos. Scoot it over a little bit. And so square root, parentheses, negative 5 minus 7 squared, plus parentheses, 10 minus 2 squared. Here decimals are okay, so 14.42 is our answer. And lastly, our midpoint is where we stack, add, divide. So we're going to stack our 2 points, so the negative 5 comma 10, and then the 7 comma 2. Add them. So negative 5 plus 7 is 2. 10 plus 2 is 12. Your last step would be to always divide by 2. So you get 1 comma 6 as the midpoint. So again, you can pause this video, rewind it if you didn't quite get any of those, and go back and try some more. The second set of questions are types of angles that we talked about. So it's asking you to draw the types. So vertical angles are where we have our lines crossing. And remember, vertical angles are always opposite of each other. So we can have these 2 as vertical angles, and I'm giving them 2 swoops because they are different from this other set of vertical angles where it has 1 swoop. So we could say 2 swoop is A, so A is equal to A, 1 swoop is B, So therefore, vertical angles are equal to each other. Supplementary angles come from a straight line, right? And we have one part that is A, one part that is B. Straight lines equal 180, so if we did A plus B, it would give us 180. And then complementary angles form a right angle. So we have our box. And again, we have a part A and a part B, but our box always equals 90. So you do have to know verticals are across from each other. They equal each other. Supplementary form a straight line. They equal 180. Complementary give you your box, 90 degrees. Okay, moving on to 3 and 4. You first have to figure out what types of angles are these. So for number 3, if I zoom in here, these two angles are across from each other. So they are my vertical angles, which we said equal each other. So that's how I set up my equation. I'm going to take one side, 6x minus 31, set it equal to the other side, 5x plus 17. So now we have to get all the x's to one side, and I like to bring the smaller x over to the bigger x. So then that leaves me with 1x minus 31 now equals 17. So all that's left is to add 31. So x equals 46. And that's all we had to do because the directions just said to solve for x. If you want to pause the video and try number 4 on your own and check in, go ahead and do that. So 4 is also a set of vertical angles. They are across from each other, so they're going to equal each other. 3x minus 14 equals 5x minus 20. Again, when solving, I like to bring the smaller x's to the bigger x's. So that leaves me with negative 14 now equals 2x minus 20. Then if I add my 20, I get 2x to now equal 6. And I'll divide by 2. So x equals 3. And that's all we had to do. We just had to solve for x. So again, across from each other, equal each other. If you go to the back, we have a different set of angles now. So our directions tell us that 1 and 2 are a linear pair, which is also a word for supplementary. You have this in your notes. Remember to use your notes on your test. Then it tells me that angle 1 is 3x plus 50, and angle 2 is 2x minus 30. Here, my directions are asking me to solve for x and figure out what is angle 1. So I first have to realize that they are supplementary angles, which means I need to add them together. So 3x plus 50 plus 2x minus 30 equals 180. They are not across from each other. They're right next to each other. So that's why I'm equaling them to 180. Now I'm going to combine my like terms. So I have 3x plus 2x, which gives me 5x. Then I have 50 minus 30, which gives me 20. Well, that still equals 180. Now if I solve for x, we get 5x to equal 160. Divide by 5. X equals 32. So x equals 32. Now, using that 32, I'm going to figure out what is the measure of angle 1. So, angle 1 is 3x plus 50. Now if I replace that x with the 32, I get 3 times 32 plus 50. Once I have all my numbers, I can go back to Desmos. And I can just type that in. 3 parentheses 32 plus 50 gives me 146. So angle 1 is 146 degrees. Again, you can pause the video and try it on your own for number 6. Okay, number 6 is also a linear pair. Angle 1 is x plus 60. Angle 2 is x plus 32. So since it is a linear pair, I'm going to add them together. X plus 60 plus x plus 32 equals 180. Combine my like terms, x plus x, that gives me 2 x's. 60 plus 32 gives me 92 equals 180. So now if I subtract the 92, that gives me 2x to equal 88. Last step, divide by 2. So x equals 44. Now remember, my directions also said solve for x and find angle 1. Angle 1 is x plus 60, so I'm going to replace that x with the 44 plus 60. So now, all I have to do is type it into Desmos. Was 44 plus 60. All right. That gives me 104. So angle 1 is 104 degrees. All right. Problem 7 is just asking us to solve for x. So we have to figure out what type of angle is problem 7. Well, I notice here that it has a box. And I know my box is equal to 90. So I'm going to take each of my parts, 4x minus 1 plus 2x plus 17. Move this so I get a little bit more space here. Alright, so now if I combine my like terms, 4x's plus 2x's gives me 6x's. Negative 1 plus 17 is a positive 16. That equals 90. Now if I subtract 16, 6x equals 74. Divide by 6. Here, x equals 12.3. Decimal is fine. Remember, the only time you're not allowed to have a decimal is when we are talking about slope. So go ahead and pause the video, try 8 on your own. Okay, for 8 it does say to solve for x and find angle 1. So first I need to figure out what type of equation I need to set up. Well, I notice both of these angles inside have a swoop. And when they both have a swoop, I can set them equal to each other. Now if I solve for x, I would subtract 3. And I would get 2x to equal 73. And I would divide by 2. So I would get x to equal 36.5. Which again, decimals are fine as long as it's not slope. Now I have to find angle 1. Angle 1 is this guy. So we'll have 2x plus 3. And then instead of x, we have 2 times 36.5 plus 3. Plug that into Desmos, and you get 76 degrees. You also know that it's going to be 76 because they each have the same marking. And so when they have the same marking, they're the same number. All right, question 9. 9, we have a big part. So we don't have any swoops, but we do have the whole angle. So that means the whole thing is equal to 109. So now I have to use my inside parts. So I would say x minus 56 plus 89 equals 109. Now if I combine my like terms, I have a negative 56 plus 89. So that leaves me with x plus 33 equals 109. There's my equation. All I have to do is subtract 33. So x equals 76. And that's all I have to do because the directions just tell me to solve for x. Question 10, I'm going to zoom in on here. Question 10 is asking for the length. Length is just another name for distance. Remember, our distance formula is when we have x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. We have our 2 points, -4, -2, and 6, 3. So if I plug in my numbers, my x's, I'm going to go 6 minus -4 squared plus 3 minus -2 squared for the y's. So now if I go back to my Desmos, bring it over here so we can see. My square root, parentheses 6 minus -4 squared plus 3 minus -2 squared. So that gives me 11.18. Now that is not an answer choice, but if I type each of these into my calculator, one of them will give me the same decimal. So if I go back to Desmos, let's try, let me move Desmos over a little here. We're looking for 11.18. So if I do 5, and then the square root 5, oh, it gives me 11.18. Just to show you b, square root 45, that doesn't give me 11.18. And then just to show the last one, 5 square root 3, again, does not give me 11.18. The only one that does is 5 square root 5. So this is your answer. Now, there is a review section on the test, so you will want to review your Unit 2 with all the symbols and the words. You want to review those notes, but a big concept you will need to know are your statements. Remember, your conditional statements are if A, then B. Your inverse was if not A, then not B. Your converse was if B, then A. And your contrapositive was if not B, then not A. Your test looks very similar to this study guide, so please make sure you understand how to do all of the problems. If you do have questions, send me a message on Schoology. I will be checking them. If you need additional practice, remember you have those practice pages in your packet. The answer keys to the packets are on Schoology as well.